They're really all pretty amazing.
Oh, it is being recorded though. Oh, this is just to get.
Now it's being
It's great
recorded.
to see them.
Every single team member, it has been sensational, really.
Yeah.
I mean, and for example, I was looking at Mike and Tyler's interview with Gordon. Really, they built that from nothing. And I mean, obviously they didn't do it alone. There's been help, from the channels, from Quentin and Michelle, but what they've managed to do is in 3 weeks is really exciting.
Yeah.
And I was working with Alex on the pet protection one as well. And when you see someone when you get it right, that like joy in their eyes, it's just really, especially, it's really easy to go to Quentin or Michelle and say, what do we do here? But when you try and struggle it out by yourself for that half an hour and you get it in that half an hour, it's so rewarding. Like, yeah. Okay. So, management.
Oh, one thing on that sort of on that ilk of rewarding doing it yourself. Quentin and I were talking this morning. All the Suffolk students should know that they can. And I'll put something in the Slack, and then you can direct people to it. But I will waive the prerequisites for any of them who want to work in the lab in the fall to continue working on this stuff, basically. Okay. So we have a lab class that basically we work with people doing projects for them, and I'm going to have them continue working on this project. So anyone who wants to, basically, if people want to, commit to get credit for it as opposed to just volunteering over the summer, Quentin and I will be able to support that. This also brings up difficult conversations of where does everyone think they'll be in the fall. So you can start thinking about that for yourselves. Yeah.
I don't even know where I'm going to be next week, or even worse, I do. I'm not going. You're not going anywhere. Everything's staying the same. Okay. Right. Management. I made some notes.
I just want to say real quick, I didn't get to report on the court addresses. I think the only ones that aren't there now are the Boston ones, which I just forgot to input into the program. I made a scraper and it took a lot less. We have them, they're more accurate, a lot less errors.
Is this scraping the JSON on the court web pages?
No, this is pretending to be a user and actually clicking through our tools,
right.
And
for testing.
And there's some like land court links that are missing on the court website and other stuff, and there are things missing in ours. So we can. I don't know what you want next out of that, Quentin, how you want that information presented, but it's
So you've got all the
spreadsheet. Except the Boston ones, yeah, because I just forgot to put those addresses in, but I can run those pretty quickly.
And it was from running through our tester, not like looking at the source code or something.
Nope.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't know. Mm-hmm. Is it this tab here, copy of court lookup tests?
I will show it to you, but I think we'll wait till the meeting's over. And then I can link you, and I'll put it in the proper tab, everything.
So you just asked me a question I can't answer yet till I know what I'm trying to figure out what it is I can answer about it. That's all.
Yes, I know. I'm just saying that's the next step. That's all I'm saying. We can discuss that next. Okay?
But I'm very conscious of people's time.
I can't answer your question right now.
That's right. You can't answer my question right now. It's for later.
Okay, so on to things we can do now. Can we move on to that, and then can I leave that for you guys to deal with offline, or is this going to affect the management meeting?
I think we can deal with it offline.
Okay, just my understanding, it was like a testing thing. It wasn't management, right?
I don't we check on the status of where things are at, and that was, I thought, part of the status, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I was wrong.
Perhaps just mention it in assembly line and we can deal with it there. I just thought there's some things that I really wanted to get through, specifically like just an update on how we're doing with new volunteers, new team members.
Sure.
How we're doing with the project management, what we're going to do with Trello integrations, and reorganizing the Trello board and perhaps extending that into 2 Trello boards, 3 Trello boards.
Awesome.
So we had a project management meeting on Friday where we just discussed new volunteers coming in, how we were going to deal with them, how we're going to onboard people. And the outcome of that meeting was that Tyler is going to message people who've already filled in the questionnaire, but who we haven't contacted about what they want to do. And he's been doing that today. And we're basically going to try and assign them tasks dependent on their time, their availability. Basically, if they're like Anvita, who's got specified 2 or 3 weeks, we don't want to have a long onboarding thing like the development. So we'd rather put her in testing, which is a shorter onboarding process. The other bucket of work that we've kind of identified is the pre-processing of forms. But while we said that you can do that with any PDF editor, we found that it's best with Acrobat. And as David pointed out, or Quentin, I think it was, students get Acrobat free until the 6th of July.
Yeah, they'd need to contact me, and then I could contact IT to get them access.
Right. So that's not going to be a big hurdle. So where we're at is that Tyler's just going to update the volunteer Trello board and catch any new volunteers that are coming in and try and assign them, as opposed to having them waiting in the wings. Because we're essentially in phase 2, we're going to be getting new people in, seeing how much time they have per week, seeing how long the availability they have is, and then assigning them accordingly. So we're kind of taking that message off that says there's a hold. We're just going straight into it. We're onboarding you, and we're going to try and, what's the word to say, make more efficient. We're going to try and make the onboarding more efficient. So they're not going to look at the whole onboarding process. We're going to direct them specifically to the onboarding of the tasks that they're going to be doing. So they can still read that general guide, see the tools that we're using, see the workflow relevant to their silo, or I guess not silo, but relevant to their portion. They're not going to have to look at it. They're not doing testing. They don't have to see the testing stuff. So that's where we're at.
Just their work stream.
Work stream. I knew Jody would have the word. Okay. So that's just an update on where we're at with new volunteers, and the backlog, how we're dealing with the backlog.
For context, I don't expect many more coming in through the Suffolk pipeline, although 2 people, despite we taking down the posting, 2 people did contact me last week. So I might say they can jump in too.
Oh,
if
so
we
this
think
is
we can.
Beyond Aubrey and Matt.
Yeah, if we think we can take them on. I haven't responded yet, but 2 more people did sort of be like, hey, can I do something? So if we think we have capacity.
I think we have capacity, because the thing is, we're going into testing now, right? Which is really, it requires a lot of people. Once we get those test cases written, we need different people, to run the test cases, and it would, if we could increase people at testing, pre-processing.
I would like to, if there are people who are going to be doing it for the sort of response fellows, which is sort of the umbrella that we've done here, I would like them to make sure they're leveling up on skills that would be useful. So, which is why we've put the main cohort we've got into the sort of like training them up on DocAssemble. Now, not everyone in that cohort, that's what they're doing, but I mean, that's sort of the default of here's some skills.
That's exactly, and I think
obviously Jody has been able to jump in with her special set of skills and help us facilitate stuff. But
can we set aside, I don't know how many hours people have per week, but can we set aside 2 to 4 hours for each student to do testing stuff? Because then we will have dedicated testers that aren't dependent on volunteers that sometimes disappear and so on.
I think we could definitely make it part of their workload. Different students have different amounts. So some people are doing just catch and catch can. Some people are doing, 20 hours. A very small number of people are doing a full-time complement.
Could you identify for us who has?
I think I have identified today.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
We have on their cards, Michelle. So if you look at the volunteer Trello, the Suffolk response fellows have the red label. So you can have a look.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we should at least, the thing is, I wanted them to have a look at testing and get a feel for it and see what happens once they develop something. I've already, using Jody as an example, she's somebody who has stepped out of that stream. Another team member is Eleni, who contacted me on Friday, saying that she felt that she wasn't able to contribute as much as she wanted to the development. She wasn't finding it as, interesting. I don't know, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but she was asking if there's any other roles.
Yeah.
Not as rewarding for her personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's also working on a very time intensive internship at the moment. I think that's also something that people are trying to split their time effectively. And she was just asking if there was something else that you could do, or is this just a development thing? And I said, there's plenty else that you can do. Also, if you want to try develop without having a team, because I think she was feeling that she was letting down her team by not being able to be there at the times that they were available and stuff. So I've mapped out the options. And I said the next logical step for you and your team is testing. So why don't you stick with your team, do the testing process, see if anything interests you there. It's also something that's a lot easier to jump in and out of, because there's going to be tests that you need to run that you can just, if you've got an hour here or there, you can just jump in and do that. So that's the next step that she's going to take. Everybody else has been really into the development side. I think Tyler has taken a little bit more of the project management. He's interfacing with the new volunteers. So I think Mike's doing the majority of that interview. But otherwise, the feedback that I've gotten from everyone else is that they're really happy with the work that they've been doing. So it'll be interesting. I think we do have capacity for those two new. What do you have any indication of hours, David?
I haven't responded, but my guess is they're looking for the COVID response team, that they'll have a good chunk of time.
Okay, I think that'll be beneficial. I think
so probably at least 20 hours.
That's good. Okay.
There are new kinds of things we should be thinking about. Like, so early on, we kind of envisioned a content production role for students and volunteers, where they produce information, like basically short articles that could go with interviews, or that would be embedded in interviews as help screens, or maybe broken up into individual questions, like substantive legal research, basically.
And that might be adapting stuff. I think Caroline just unmuted. I was going to say adapting existing.
Yeah, it would be helpful for them to know what's already on Mass Legal Help rather than writing from scratch. And honestly, if we're talking about law students writing answers to questions,
worried about
as a law student myself,
a lot of people in this conversation are and were. And it just gets tricky. I think if it's not there already, but we're finding we did a lot of housing questions that Gary Allen's Harvard Legal Services Center did, and we had to do a lot of editing, but still it is helpful to have these little, like you say, to do the legal research and have the kernels. But I think what's really important is to look at Mass Legal Help first and make sure that they're not rewriting stuff that's already there.
You're not reinventing the wheel. If at most you're tailoring it.
Yeah, and also not kind of like, as lawyers, you're tempted to give every little qualification and why this isn't true, and sites and things like that, which you have to do doing that. But when you're just trying to give people the overall idea, you don't need to, give all the examples of when this actually isn't applicable.
Right.
So I would like to make sure we had plain language definitions of what all the forms did.
We started that, didn't we? We had a document, but we didn't have all the forms, and I wasn't quite sure is that going to go on the Mass Access website?
Yeah,
we can start with the TRO. I think that.
Yeah, and I think
I
think that what I was realizing this weekend was that if you go to the TRO, that first screen basically has the language that I would like to have on the website, which is like this form. It's like the more plain language. Like, this is what. If you're facing these issues, this is what this can help you.
This form lets you ask the court for emergency help. That's the thing you're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas on the Mass Access now, it still has the boilerplate from before, which is very, legalese.
Yeah. And the other thing about the title for this is you're asking for the order. So really it's a complaint. It's not it's not the order itself, which is confusing.
The one thing I know, Quentin, you had mentioned you were thinking we could programmatically pull out stuff from the interviews at some point. Is there
well, that's a good idea.
Like that way we'd only do it in the interview, like the description of the interview in the interview. And then you said we could like API pull that out or something? Or
right, so you don't have it in multiple places.
Can't we make that into a template and then use it in both places? It's like the language.
Well, that's sort of what we were trying to do now. It's just obviously things have gotten out of sync. So the question is, if there's one place where people are always, if the information already exists in the interview, I don't know, maybe this is not what you were thinking.
Well, it's an interesting question. So yes, we can do that. We'd be building the API, and it wouldn't be a very heavy API, obviously. And part of it relies on standardized conventions for that block that has the intro, which may not be true for all of the new forms we're developing, because we haven't really been forcing people to go back in and update that data structure. Once we realized we just wanted a static web page that could be customized a lot better. But the other question is, do we really want those to be the same? Because we had two things. We had a description that was embedded in the file as metadata. And then we have the thing that's shown on the intro screen, which starts out as being the same as the description of the form. I think those might be, it might really make sense to have those be separate. The metadata description versus the introduction when we launch the form. Because this is like, what form should I choose?
Right.
In one case, on the other case, it's, I'm about to start the form, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
Actually start it. So I think it's okay to maintain it in two separate places is the short answer to that.
It's not
Yeah,
really duplication of work.
I'm fine with that too. I was just curious if there was a flip we could switch and we weren't flipping it. I wanted to make sure we that wasn't the case.
Are they the same audience?
No, I think that's kind of what I was saying, Jody. Like there's like one you're trying to find which form to do, and one you actually already chose it. I think those are slightly different audiences.
Okay.
I do think currently right now the TRO example one sort of reads core close to the both audiences. Yeah. I mean, both audiences in this case are the same person at different times.
Right.
So as a comment, as a oh, you think the one inside the interview does? Okay, got it. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's a good point, David. Is that it's not different people; it's different, same person at different stages. So once they have more knowledge, they
for some people, yeah. Some people they read it and they'll go, "That's not for me," right? That first page.
Right, because they're the first, because that's the stage they're at. So the point is, there's one that's a discovery purpose, which is discovery and confirmation that this is what I need, and the other one is, okay, you've decided you're going to do this. Here's where we're going.
And we might need to give you a little bit more detail at that point. Yeah.
And maybe it's just an abbreviated version to confirm, like, yes, you're at the right place then.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is I just wanted to flag the fact that we have this, Google Sheet where we have the descriptions of forms.
Yeah.
And currently the phrasing on those descriptions is, I don't think what we want it to be in actuality. I mean, I know we brought this up several times, and I feel like we had like a workflow that we had thought about. Obviously, it's just not getting, like for the TRO as the example, it just sort of didn't get updated.
So where do we update? What needs to be updated and where do we update that?
Well, this is what we've, I think before talked about as the translation file. It's that Google Sheet.
Yeah, I know.
And we had two times when we thought it was going to get populated. The first time it get populated is when someone just first did the pre-processing on the form and wrote a light introduction. That way we have an introduction there. And then the other time was after we'd done plain language and everything and the form was ready to go out into the world. Then again, we'd move back, make sure it was updated and update it. Those are the two times I think we explicitly envisioned touches on that sheet.
Is it connected to the, I mean, if you said there was something for the TRO there, has that been implemented?
So they're all the stuff that's there does, so this sheet does populate the static page.
Oh, I see. So there is not, okay, got
so
it.
it's effectively it's quasi database for the static page. I review everything before I do an update, but I do an update, it pulls all the stuff in, I make sure it's okay, and then push it.
Got it. So now you're saying, first of all, is there going to be a backlog that we need to update?
Well, there are the forms that are there now that are visible. And yeah, I think that it would be nice to update them. But that update could also take place at the time when the form itself is ready to go, right? Because then we have the stuff. It's that for the TRO, obviously, that wasn't done.
Right. Okay. I see what you're saying now. So basically, when a person comes to us, a team comes to us and says, this is ready to update, we need the step before, ready to launch. The step before that is we need to go to that sheet, check the plain language description, make sure it's updated, and then launch.
Yeah.
That can be another, like,
Part of the workflow.
I think that was, I thought we envisioned that as the workflow. It must just have not gotten formalized.
And for now, we just need to update the TRO, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
So
who's gonna do that part?
what does it look like at the moment?
So
I can do it. I mean, I can do it. I just go to the Google Sheet and update it, right?
Yeah, do you know which? It's the one that has it starts off with the elements, text elements or something. I can't remember what it's called. Where is that sheet housed, David?
It's in that big folder, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's. I mean, it is on our Google Docs thing somewhere.
Is it the
I know Judy has
triage
a
one? That
No,
we
no,
went
not
through?
the
No,
triage
it's not the
one.
triage one. It's the mass access text elements.
Text elements and forms.
And we're explicitly talking about the forms tab.
Okay,
got it.
I got it. Caroline, I'll Slack it to you.
It is in that main. It's in that main folder. So you're talking about
on its own.
Yeah. Now the only thing that we need to figure out what we're going to do when we change them, because they also have translations. So if we change them, then we also need to redo the translation.
Right. So that needs to get flagged as needing to be done.
Okay.
And I should come up with a better coloring scheme here because I'm looking at this here and there's no key or anything.
Thanks, Freddie. Okay.
Oh, I see. I've already been translated. Okay. Yeah.
So the housing TRO.
Yeah, it's the most anemic description. Contains complaint and request for temporary and permanent orders. Preliminary injunction needed to seek immediate relief for lockouts, emergency repairs, utility shutoffs, and the like.
I think
I'm
honestly,
a layperson. I come here.
If you just put the last sentence first, you're bearing the
that helps.
the part that the regular people would be interested in. So
yes. It's all one sentence because it's a horribly long sentence. But yes, you put the last part first.
Right.
Okay, so that needs to be done, and I think David, would it be safe to say that we'll add it to the workflow so that when new forms are added to that sheet, they get the plain language description?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, we just want a plain language thing there as soon as possible because sometimes we are putting the plain language up before we have the form, right? We're giving this in progress message, which is what we're doing with all those other forms right now.
Yeah.
So if you go to, like, for example, domestic violence, you'll see the affidavit disclosing care and custody as an in progress form. And then it has a little description as to why it's, there. So that people can think, oh, okay, eventually I'll be able to get this.
What's the count column for?
Oh, eventually I'm going to tie back in the number of times the thing was actually accessed, and the order it will display to the user will be dependent upon the, how useful it is.
Oh, I see. And
because alphabetical listing is not a very sensible way of going about presenting this information to people.
Right. And so the thing is, where we have multiple forms here that are actually in one package. So for example, the 209A, you're not going to do a description of all the different pieces.
So that's an interesting question. I was trying to think about that because we don't have the 209A listed on the site. But yeah, I was thinking that, well, for some things, it makes sense because some things are either standalone or potentially go with other forms, like the affidavit, of care and custody.
Right.
So that would definitely be pulled out.
Maybe
there would have to be a generic. I think there'd be a general one for the interview.
This may not work with the way the website pulls it, but maybe we could do something like where a form is included in another package, indicate in the description line, indicate that could be what package it could be included in. Now and then that would complicate your pulling into the website, but at least you just get, either you put nothing there because it's part of another form.
Yeah, I think you should I think everything should have at least some description because there could be a utility at some point of us at least listing what the forms are.
Right.
And it's nice to know, oh, this is part of a larger package.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, yeah. So that's what I think that makes more sense too. So that's what I'm suggesting.
And then we will have to write a description for the larger packet, but at least then.
Right, but could you just do this, for example, the defendant information form, use this form with 25080 and 209A, because in fact, that's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
Okay, my other question about that is, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so some of these, like the TRO, you're actually applying for a TRO. It's not, what you're doing is not a TRO, it's a complaint for a TRO.
Yeah.
Uh,
So you don't
do
want
we know,
confusion.
sorry?
You don't want confusion. You want people to let them know there's like
Well,
an
yeah, you're
application.
requesting it, it's a complaint for
Yeah,
a petition.
request for a temporary restraining order, I
Right,
think would
so
be a
can
good.
we change the titles? Will that affect the web? How do you want to, what do you want to do about that?
I
'Cause
would be
then-
I would be open to more user-friendly titles.
Okay,
Because I mean, the thing is, right now we have placeholders. They're kind of there. It says there are these
Yeah.
forms, but if you're a lay user, you're like, what does this mean?
right. So I guess, is it okay for me to change the titles?
Yes, it is okay for you to change the titles.
Okay, okay. All right. I
Let
will
me
check.
ask this though, the housing TRO, that's live already, isn't it?
Yes.
It won't
So-
change the URL though.
No, no,
It
no.
won't, no, it won't
what I'm
change anything
wondering-
until I approve it and push the change through.
Okay.
So no,
I'm just
no
wondering because of
changes
like
on.
timing. Maybe we should do it in the middle of the night or something. I don't know if it'll mess anything up if somebody's in there while we're.
Yeah, no, I can do a really quick hot swap of stuff when we update stuff.
Okay.
And you can also, does your analytics tell you who's on the page at the minute? You know, the live.
I can actually. I can
Yes,
actually
so you
look
can
at
check
live.
that and see if anybody's there and
Oh,
then change
perfect.
it quickly.
We can use the monitor tab actually is the trick. So you can
Okay.
see.
Well, except
from
this
the
won't
menu.
actually affect anything on DocAssemble.
Just
Oh,
a
that's a good
static
point.
page,
The
right?
stat, just the static page.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
So if we want to change it on DocAssembly, you got to push it.
When we
Yeah,
have
but this-
other, so for this matters for the 209A, which I know is its own
Yeah.
beast right now, but will it matter for us to list all of the forms for people who know what they're looking for and want to and don't necessarily realize it's part of the package? So like if
Yeah,
someone
I-
is looking to do
yeah.
a 209A who's an advocate who's done them a bunch
Yeah.
of times, they'll want to know it actually is 8 forms and what the 8 forms are in
Yeah.
some way.
I think it would make sense to put that in the description.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
I
You
concur.
cater for both. Cater
So
for the
people
pro
can do
se
like
who doesn't
control F
know.
and find it basically.
Yeah.
Or whatever our search mechanism is eventually.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I mean, it's changing, but you know, advocates are going to the website all the time. I mean, Kate, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think they go to the website to download the forms, and everybody's noticed now that page 1 and page 2 are now part of the packet, and so you can't find page 1, you can't find some of those standalone pages anymore that used to be standalones. So I think it would make sense just to list them all in the description of the one package. But I think people are pretty up to date about, it's just easier to get the most recent form from the court website, but then they change it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think that's the right direction. And also, we don't have anything on the static site yet about any stuff that's in private beta. So we have time to sort of figure out how we want to do that. Although what I'm anticipating us doing soon is to add something. So actually, Caroline, if you wanted to take on a description of
Wait a
the
second, there's a
209A,
truck coming.
okay.
Feels like a metaphorical truck.
Yeah, hopefully, or maybe hopefully not. It's just a noisy thing. If you wanted to take on a description for the 209A packet and to actually add that as a set of rows, so you can make form whatever, blah blah blah, using the same naming convention and just saying 209 packet and do that. I think that would be welcome, because I think the next step in sort of this like phase release of trying to convince the court to like do something, which is frustrating because originally they were like, oh, we want to do this thing, and now they're like, oh,
Well,
I'm being recorded.
Yeah, sorry.
The point is, I think the next step is to put something up that says 209A packet and be like beta, okay? And then like if you click on the beta, it will go to a page that says we're in private beta with these, service agencies. If you're a service provider and you want to enter the beta, contact us. If you're not, then here are the people you can talk to get help.
I like that a lot. I think that's because that's what you see when you go onto people who are in beta. Join the beta.
And that keeps it a private beta, because we're not at that point. We're still only giving it to the advocates. But then people can come here and either get directed to the advocates, or if they're an advocate, get directed to us to know they can enter into the private
So
beta
we're
too.
saying if you're an advocate, get in touch with us.
Yeah.
And is that info at Suffolk MassX? What is that? Who is us?
It's massaccess@suffolk.edu.
Okay. And so if you're an advocate, Mass Access at Suffolk. At Suffolk?
.edu, yeah.
Oh, just .edu.
Just Suffolk
Okay.
.edu.
And
Yeah, we got a real
so
address.
if you're an
and everything.
advocate, if you're a regular person, get in touch with the DP program. And we're going to do Jane Doe, or we're going to do the Safe Plan people, Kate?
For what?
That the
Who should
regular
we be
people.
telling them to get an access with?
Safe. I think I like the Jane Doe one actually.
I do
The
too.
zip code based one.
Type in their zip code and then they can get everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do that page, right? Because that's a page.
No,
on the
that'll
web.
be a separate thing. So we're just looking like just a description for the 209A, what a 209A
Right.
is.
Okay.
And then I'll have to, well, then we can figure out what that page looks like. But I think I think that's the next step in our attempt to.
Sure.
And then
I might be being nitpicky. I think instead of advocate, maybe I'd say service provider, just to make it a little broader, a little more.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Okay. Are we done talking about 209A for a second?
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm, Caroline, your action points were to
Yeah, I'm
change
sorry. We've
that
entirely
description.
derailed the agenda. I'm sorry.
The action points, Caroline, were to change the description on the housing TRO, and then to create a new set, like new form. So it'll be form 39 with those same fields in column A. And then.
Oh, wait a second. That I'm not.
I can actually just make that right now. So here, let's just
thanks,
do this.
David. So then just fill in where David makes that thing. It'll be around row. God.
Yeah, TRO is 3. I'm not.
Yeah. So you'll change that description, and then you'll look at. David's going to add something at row 198.
198.
Well, I'm at 193. I already added it.
Oh, and right. What is that? What am I?
You'll see it. This will be like 209A.
So that's where you put in the description about the 209A.
Oh, you're adding a form. That's what you're doing. This is 209A. Okay, gotcha.
Oh, this guy.
So I know Caroline wants to say something. I just wanted to quickly talk maybe because I know I've got a hard stop at 2 because we got the testing meeting. I just wanted to talk quickly about the Trello integrations. Caroline, I don't know how long what do you need to raise and how long do you think it's going to take?
I just had a quick question. It's sort of related to this is, when David said spread it to everybody we don't have a link on Mass Legal Help too. I'm just writing it now. So I'm trying to think about a consistent way to do it, but also we have, forms pages. I would like to get the logo. I mean, are we just going to use that little hand or map of Massachusetts, and I can use that as a logo for the interactive forms? Oh, and the other part of that question was, do you want me to link to the description of the page on Mass Access, or can I go straight to the DocAssemble interview?
I think straight to the DocAssemble interview makes the most sense from the user.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're not going to need to go
click through another splash screen.
Yeah, they click through something to find something.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right. And then so if I can get that outside the meeting, but if I can get the little icon, right? I could, or maybe it's in the Google Drive, and I'll start using that to indicate that this is one of our interactive forms.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just trying to think if I have a higher resolution. I'll look for a higher resolution when I look. Or not that it's not. None of us, I think, love it, but it's what we had.
Yeah, I figure it's what we have. We can change it when we.
It's just Massachusetts in a circle.
Yeah.
Well, see, the thing is, I kind of like that, right? Because when we take it into other jurisdictions, they can put the outlines of their areas. But
yes, I like that too. Although they won't have the same pun on Mass Access.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah. Okay, so
we'll need to be unique branding.
To talk about the Trello integrations. I'm still, as much as I've researched it, I'm still confused as to how power-ups work and how gold works. Because I have gold, but I don't know until like July. I don't know. No, until January next year. But you're only allowed 3 power-ups per board. And Jody and I have isolated like 2 project management tools that we think would be really helpful. But we don't know which one to choose. And you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know how
question. I think it sounds like Quentin, you know more about this, but like,
A little bit.
if say we pick one and we don't like it, can we like give it back and pick the other one, or are we hosed and we're stuck with the one that we picked?
Oh, is this in terms of like applying your Trello Gold to the thing? Because actually, by the way, I think you get one free power up on the free.
Yeah, I feel like I want to use it wisely. So,
okay.
But there's a couple, there's two, like Maeve was saying, there's two options that we looked at, but there's still uncertainty as to like a couple things about functionality that I feel like we'll only know once we get in and play with them. So.
Well, what about creating a test board? And using just the free power up and just playing with it that way. And you don't have to use your gold on it at all.
Each power up has like a free version you can just play with?
I think there might be some power ups that you can only use with gold. I'm not sure. Do you know, Caroline? Nice. I actually haven't really used the power ups. We're on mute. You're on mute.
Yes.
There are some that are restricted to the page.
I think so, yeah. You can only use with gold. I haven't used it in a while.
And I saw there are some that aren't really power-ups at all. They're just like Chrome there's a Chrome add-on that gives some features that you don't even have to pay for. It's just like someone else built some JavaScript that messes with your Trello board and gives it a different look or features or both.
That was the first one we looked at, which was good, but it really didn't provide a lot of additional functionality.
No.
Probably like no additional functionality. It was just like a different view.
Yeah,
right.
It was
helpful.
Just a different view. But you had to pay for it. You couldn't use gold. You couldn't use power-ups.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was why we wanted to go with the Trello integrations. So the thing is, Quentin, that you're saying is that we must just play around, we must create a new board, play around with it, see if we can get those with our free power-ups. And then we'll just implement one.
And I have some gold too. So it sounds like enough of people have gold, especially for like the duration that we need it.
Yeah.
That you shouldn't feel like if you're like choosing between two, then just try one and we can see another person could use gold to get the next one. Or we can ask Trello to pay for it. If you've narrowed it down to two, I feel like you could just try it and see.
Okay.
Maeve brought that up. Like if one person gets it, does that mean our whole little Trello community is able to use it?
That was what I thought is the way it worked. I thought that the gold went with the board, not with the person who's accessing it.
Not per person. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, because when I think I added a calendar, and my users could see the calendar on the board I shared with them.
Okay. Well, we'll play around with that and then report back on that. No, it doesn't really make it just makes it easier for us to see what's going on. But it's going to really require us to have that board organized, and the success kind of rises and falls on the organization of that board. And in that vein, I wanted to speak about maybe we've kind of set out like 3 big stages of work: the pre-processing, the development, and the testing. Could we expand our boards? Could we add extra boards? What are we thinking about in that regard?
David and I were just talking about a new bottleneck, at least that I see right now, which is we have forms that are close to being ready that we need to push through, and it can happen in a parallel phase to testing, I think, once it's reached a minimum stability. Like, how do we actually make sure the form gets out in the world? So I feel like that's a time-consuming review process right now, and requires some people who know details that aren't like automated or written down.
Yeah.
That we need to spread some of that knowledge.
So one way is to write down and create more documentation for the forms. Another way is I believe once we get this testing process started, once we have people, we will start being able to churn out stuff. We just
maybe I should clarify like what I'm talking about. So for example, Kate, you have a form that's almost ready, right?
Yeah. But
there are things that you might not even know what things are needed, or at least how to do them to get it really out. So that's like the sending to the court, integrating that part.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which was all something I did manually for the TRO. I mean, it's mostly like little finishing details like that. We need people who can finish the form. That is a different skill set than the people who are able to add new questions and to rewrite.
Right.
And I want to make sure there are a few people who can do that. And
Yeah.
now it's really a good time for us to do that because we've tried it with the TRO. We've seen what works. So now we can start writing those down. Like, it would have been impossible to do that at the beginning of the project. We didn't even know what we wanted it to look like.
So you're talking about creating documentation for finishing up a form?
I'm talking about having more people who can do that. Because even if we wrote down the documentation, I don't think there'd be people who'd be confident to do it. So I'm really envisioning getting at least one person to probably follow along with me, where I focus on that for a week, and we can do the documentation together. But I don't think writing it down would do anything at this point, because there
I
wouldn't
mean,
be
I
anybody who
think
would feel
writing it
confident enough
down
to
would
do it.
create good reference material for people.
But
so
we
that they
don't
can
just
train
need
each other.
written
I
instructions.
know,
we
I
need
agree.
a person.
I
That's what I'm
agree.
focusing on right now.
I agree.
A
Got
person.
it.
So of course that involves writing stuff down eventually, but we need a person first.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a good point, Quentin. That kind of the last step, and that's the bottleneck, is that we've got the workflow but we can't get that final push to get it out and launched. So is what I'm hearing, that you're volunteering to take people through?
I think it wouldn't make sense for someone to just try to jump in and do it without having me to help, because there's too much things that I've been the only person who've done. And it could be we do it and then, but yeah, so yes, I'm volunteering to do that.
Thank you.
Take a week and help someone get up to that point.
And so what I'm thinking is that perhaps even if we basically we're going to get people to that stage, I think once they've done the SME review, it's, the parallel and the kind of launch, you want to have it tested, but we can run certain things in parallel, and people are going to kind of be at that stage this week. So I think that perhaps we can get a group of people together. I'll sit in on that as well, and we can all watch at the same time, and we just do it with one form or one interview, and then they can apply it to their own. Is that something that, and then call upon you, that Jody's dad in the background?
Sorry.
So cute. Is that something that we could do, or do you want to just do it with, say, a group of 2 people, Quentin, and then what do you think is the best way to do that?
You want people who have I think who are fairly committed for an amount of time to the project. I don't think
those Suffolk responses.
That was, I think, yeah. So that was another question I had for David. It's like, we don't really have anybody who could, there's not a person who we can say in 3 months they'll be around for sure. So any of the Suffolk students should be a good candidate as long as they have the right capacity and are interested in doing it. Because they have that same time frame as everybody else, really.
David, are there any students that are working on it with us right now that have said that they're interested in continuing to do the lab in the fall?
No, which is why I want to tell people about the lab.
Okay.
Right, that was something.
So maybe let's do that. See if we get a candidate, and then that would be like the ideal person for you to work with, Quentin, because that would be somebody that was probably going to be around in a few months.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's definitely right. The longer the person's going to be around, the better. But even if we only find someone who could do it for the summer, that's still useful, because it's like
right, for sure.
I wouldn't let that be a blocker to have people register for a class first. So I'd say we should choose someone now who could do it, and then whoever does register for the class, we could also say, hey, you as well.
Yeah, that's the other. Like, would it be beneficial to do more than one person?
Yes.
So that you only have to go through
Absolutely.
it once.
That's what I was saying, Caroline, on that point, is that we want to try and spread the knowledge.
Yeah.
That whole bus thing.
Yeah, the bus thing, right.
But maybe you make a good point too. Like, I hadn't even really been thinking, is this just something that should be part of the regular development? And maybe it is, but there's at least a backlog right now of forms we have to do that with, that where it wasn't part of the development yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm trying to think now. Can we get maybe some? I as I said, I've got the volunteers who've got the most time specifically. I think those ones, this max is like 35-40 hours. Maybe I can identify those for you, and then we can see where they're at on their form, and then go from there and see whether we can give it to them. And maybe people who I don't want it to be one person. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
I think we all don't want it to be one person, so I don't know why I'm owning that. I'm not going to get fought on it, I hope. So the more people that know, the better. But whether or not we include it as part of the regular development process, or whether it gets passed on to a person. Is that your dad in a new shirt, Jody?
I'm so sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
I love it.
I know why I played with backgrounds.
If you see anyone walking behind you, it's gonna be really bad because I don't live with anyone. So just tell me. So okay, so that's something that we need to decide.
Is there a way also, would it, and it might not make sense, some things don't make sense to record, but if it would make sense to record this, then again, it would save time, Quentin, and you wouldn't have to go back and reteach anyone else at a later time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Okay.
going to be a little nascent because it's like, I don't necessarily know what's not written down and what,
Sure.
I mean, it mostly lives in comments in the file. So actually all of it's written down in a way,
Okay.
but it's going to be a discovery process / actually doing it.
Okay.
I mean, the
And it's
thing
gonna be
too
tailored
is
to each
that,
form.
sorry,
A little
Maeve.
bit. Yeah.
It won't be a specific, it's gonna kind of change a little bit depending on each form, it's my understanding.
I think it will a bit. Like I tried to design like the sending to court part stuff, so it's relatively standardized.
Okay.
Right. So
But,
people know whether it's a form that they can send, whether they should download for themselves and send to the court, or whether they can send through mass access, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's
So they-
part of it too.
So there's some of those things. But I think the other thing is those people who've just about finished their forms and going through testing, they're probably really motivated to learn to do this because, you know.
They want to get their form out there. They want to be able to show people what they've been working on. I think that's a big,
Yeah.
you know, and as we said, this is the bottleneck between the form being here and the form being online.
Exactly.
You
And
know,
we have like at least 3 or 4 forms that are probably also at that stage that we've kind of haven't looked at in several weeks. So, so
Oops.
Mark Ferraretto had done a couple, and then Adi had done at least one that seemed really close. when I
Yes,
looked at it,
yeah.
I think. So I mentioned that I think before, but I don't want to lose track of those. So that's
right, of course. Let me just think about that.
so that whoever gets trained to do this could look at those, or
As a start, yeah, that's a good. They
Yeah.
can test themselves out on those.
maybe the
Okay.
order of operations is to try doing this with like a person who wants to become the go-to person on it, or who can do that at least for like a month or two, and then have a bigger meeting once one person's gone through it, and it will be a faster summary of how to do it for the next form.
Okay, I like that. So we need to find somebody who's going to be some buddies, 2 people that are going to be the go-to person for at least a month on this, and they can then learn from you, Quentin. And as Caroline said, you know, I'm more, you know, if people are consenting, I'm more for recording things and keeping them in an archive on my computer than not recording them and having to teach it again and again and again. Because even if it's not, you know, as you said, it's not like a structured lesson. You're figuring stuff out as you're going and stuff. It's still beneficial. Like those things where you're taking people through the coding things is so beneficial. And I think it's saved. I mean, looking at how many people have viewed those and how many people that I've spoken to who've used them, you know, that would have been like 5 or 6 5-minute calls, you know. So it is beneficial to record it, even if it doesn't get published straight away.
I'm totally open to that. Yeah, as long as people don't mind rambling for an hour or two.
Well, those Twitch videos were really helpful. And do you know how many people that I've spoken to have said that like an hour and 23-minute video of you playing on DocAssemble made everything make sense to them?
Oh,
so I was like,
okay.
wow. People are watching everything.
It's better than those 5-minute. I also loved 5-minute phone calls.
Oh God, 5-minute phone. And it'll just take 5 minutes, really. Whenever I say that to Quentin, I'm like, I know it's gonna take. We're gonna find like so many things wrong. Okay, so
And I just
David,
put a link in the Slack to the lab class.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So then, should I start asking those Suffolk Response volunteers if anyone would be interested in learning this? Maybe people who the 35 hour. I don't know. Or is it something that David would want to do to suss out who wants to do this?
is it at all useful for me to learn this stuff, or I'm not quite understanding like what part is like just for the students because it's for their education, and what part is like we just need people to do, like we need bodies on.
This isn't really an educational component.
Because I'd be happy to learn and then be also a resource for other people to learn, but.
We just need finished carpenters, right?
Yeah, that's the whole point, right? That's exactly.
Is that an actual term? What's it called? Finished carpenter.
And,
so in carpentry, yeah.
Sorry.
So it's not a coding thing.
No,
it's
it's
not a coding
okay. Because I've been implementing words that I'm hearing, like Jody uses some stuff, and she's like, actually, this is not a proper project management term. Because I started using it, like, okay, so finished carpentry, okay, okay.
Well,
that's a different role. I think that's a good way to think of it.
We started using chunking in the UK when we were working on this project, and now it's a legitimate term for readability.
Okay, so we are pioneers. Okay, so to go back to Michelle's question, I'm also happy to sit in and kind of learn what this entails, because also, eventually we are going to document it. So I think that it's important that we also get an idea of what's involved and think about how we're going to create the documentation for that. So the thing is, first we need to find people who are willing and able, who have the time to be the finished carpenters, and then we'll set up perhaps this week or next week, Quentin, with you to watch you do or be involved in doing one of the ones with Mark or Adi, one of those forms.
I think I do understand a bit of Quentin's reluctance. I haven't been that well recently, so and my health isn't like so reliable. So if there is someone who also wants to be in on that, right?
But also, Michelle, I think that
that's not it. You're doing a lot of things. I think we want people who
aren't.
I think a lot of people want to learn a new thing.
We're project managing as well, Michelle. So that's a lot. Like I spend my day on calls, negotiating with people and liaising and organizing and also teaching. And I think that it's just another thing to add. So I'm cautious of adding too much to our plates. And if there's somebody else who's willing and able to do that, there's no harm in us learning how to do it and knowing how to do it. But having somebody else who's going to be there and actually take on that responsibility, that ownership.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'd love to ride along either way, whether it's me doing it or I'm just a ride along. I'd love to learn this part of the process.
Okay, sure. So I'm gonna find.
It's not a process yet, to be clear. That's part of the thing. That's why I'm like, well, yeah, we should record it, but it'll be a little rambling the first time. And there's not a process yet. It's just like it's the things we need to do, which partly we have to figure out what those are.
And that's the thing, is how all the processes have really developed is by going along and figuring out and seeing how it gets done.
Exactly.
Okay, so Quentin, can I come back to you? Maybe Michelle can also do this, just reaching out to volunteer team members to see who will be the finished carpenters. And we'll get back to you with some names. And then we can schedule a call. And as you said, we've got those forms from Adi and from Mark that you've identified as ready for this.
Yes, and then there's Kate's. I think you're probably ready for this with your form too. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And then there is the affidavit of indigency, which is like probably 2 hours of work away from that. I just realized there's a whole feature there we should take out because it will otherwise cause needless chance of the court having problems with the form, which is the automatically asking for the waiver of the Tyler filing fee. Just take that part out.
Okay.
I don't know if you agree with
that,
Kate. You're the best person to know.
You don't think the court will like that?
I think we don't need that. Could cause problems with the court, and it might slow it down being approved. So.
Well, one of those things that we don't have and then we change, right?
MVP.
Yeah, don't put it in the MVP.
Well, it's already
and then once
in there.
The court's approved it, then stick it in.
So that exists already. That form, basically, I made it specifically for COVID response when, actually it was like the day after I left GBLS. Someone said they needed it. So I made it before I started at Suffolk.
I think
so
don't bargain against yourself and keep it in until the court says no.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm all right with that too.
Let them
So
say
like
no.
ask
Well,
forgiveness
the
of
thing is,
permission. That
hey,
kind of,
I mean, it seems, I mean, in a way it's sneaky, but you said give the forms to the court approves them, and then I guess you could do it either way.
I think it's not that sneaky. They've agreed to go through the approval process, so if
But
they
then if
see
we,
and they
what I'm
don't
saying
like
is if
it,
we
then
add
let
it,
us know.
add it on after they approve it, that's what I was saying.
Oh,
Add it
I
Right,
see.
but if we,
Yeah,
if
the
we just
one
put it in
thing,
before, then,
yeah, the
okay.
one thing here is we might not really, I mean, so anything that goes through us is not subject to the Tyler filing fee anyway.
Right.
So I think the concern is that if we keep it in, it might remind some people in the court that we have
That we're doing it without a fee.
Right.
it. I think it might be, I think there is a argument to be made that we should give them the form closest to the form as it exists. And the form as it exists does not anticipate having a particular radio button for
Yeah, Tyler.
for a particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the affidavit of indigency wouldn't be going through Tyler. So we don't need to waive that fee.
If they, if they're using our thing to
Using
send
our
it, it
system,
would not
they
go
won't.
through.
Yeah.
Who is Tyler?
Tyler is a company, Tyler Technologies,
Okay.
and they have a existing contract with the state for e-filing, which gives them a monopoly right to e-file.
What?
It's very common
Don't
in
even
most of
I
the
realized I was
go
just
there.
laughing because, yeah, who is Tyler? We have a lot of Tylers we're talking about. Sorry about that, Michelle.
Yeah, no,
It's a
that's,
larger discussion.
fine.
It is
Big
something that is
discussion.
not
I
an
thought,
issue
I was
during
like,
the
who is?
emergency.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is something that's not an issue for we have been told is not an issue for the pendency of the emergency. So
Okay.
we're operating in this space, but traditionally they would have a monopoly contract on e-filing for the courts.
It's not a permanent one, but there may be.
Yeah,
I've got 6
time
minutes
limited.
until we go to my testing meeting. I'm really wanting to make new Trello boards because right now the Trello isn't being used efficiently. And as I said, the project management really, we're relying on the Trello. We can't see things moving because there's not enough columns or we haven't. So I'm just trying to think how I mapped out the workflow as I saw it. Could I kind of do a mock-up of the Trello board and submit it on the admin channel and see if, before I do anything wild.
Do you think that's better, or do you think it's better to have another quick call with everybody to kind of run through what you've outlined before we, like, I'm not sure what's better.
I think it will be easier to see if we can see what it looks like. And when she implements it, she might see things that need to change already. So
I'm also wondering, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go.
If you have time, I would say, let's reach out to John Grant, who was the person who helped us set up the Trello boards originally.
Yeah.
He has his brand Agile Attorney. He was really helpful, and we have not reached out to him for help again, and I bet he'd be willing to do that. So he's a Trello expert, and that's his.
That's a great idea.
I mean,
That's
he doesn't offer his
probably
services doing Trello, but he manages projects and he uses Trello. He knows it really well.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's a really good, that's perfect.
Do we have his contact info?
He's on the Slack. I think if we can reach out to him
one of
there.
the
Are you
volunteers.
already an admin so that you can make new Trello boards? Because I think I can give you that power if that's what we want.
Yeah, that's another option too, is if rather than mocking up a visual, if you wanted just to make a new Trello board, you could do that. You could always
we don't have to give people the link until it's ready.
No.
I'm just
thinking.
That's perfect, Maeve. We can get with John and then that'll be good.
Yeah, John's really, he with Quentin and I, we sat down for a brief amount of time and he just helped us a great deal.
That's awesome. Great idea. Thanks, Quentin.
Yeah.
So I'll talk with Jody about that, and we'll come back to you guys with
and I don't think he is checking his Slack as much. So if his email isn't in the contact information, ask me for it and I can get it to you.
I think I do have his email, but what I was saying is like maybe we give him like a day to see if he goes online or whatever, and then if not, then we can I'll just send him an email and CC Jody in.
There's I'll put it in the Slack. There's a thing about Trello Gold, and I was thinking, because You for $5 a month or $45 a year, you can add one power up.
But
And
we
if-
already have gold, so.
No, but I mean, that's what I was thinking. If we run out.
Oh, right.
Right. So I've got 12 months. Quentin, you've got a ton. And then, as we add new members, every time you add a member, you get more gold. So I think we should.
You know what? Those are good questions. Like all those questions that we asked before, Maeve, about the adding the power ups. We can ask John. I bet he'll know.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
I was just kind of guessing a little bit.
And I'll just send you guys the link, because then you've got something to look at when you talk to him.
Okay.
I think it's
I
just
like that. Thank you,
it's just Trello.com/gold. That's what it is.
Okay.
But I'll see if I can figure it out.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to jump off. I'm not sure if there's anything else that anyone else wants to discuss.
Would Wednesday be a good day? Just if I'm shooting for that day to try to do a first thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll reach out
Try
now.
to keep that day clear. I have like one meeting in the morning now.
Okay. Thank you for that link, Caroline.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, perfect.
Cool.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
And
everybody.
consistently in awe on everyone's hard work. Yeah.
Don't say it with that tone. You got to say it with the
I've already, it's early in the week, but I've already reached I'm really low on energy phase. Don't think I'm being,
I'm sorry if I'm snappy.
It's very,
I'm sorry if I'm a little short.
Short, that's one. I'm sorry.
I did give myself a haircut. You can't really see it because of this, because it always cut off my flyaways.
I'm going to spotlight you, David.
I didn't realize you could just do that.
Only
there you go.
David and I.
Here's what he does.
David, let's see the back of it. Let's see.
That part I didn't actually get to. So,
you got a
see
ponytail
Uncle
then.
Jesse, business in the front.
That's fair.
That's so funny. Got it. Right, I gotta go.
Awesome.
I'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Bye.